Hey guys, I'm here today with Paula Keung. She is an insurance broker with Goosehead, and she's also a Jersey City resident for how many years now?
20 years.
20
Can
years.
you imagine?
And you're downtown, right?
Downtown Jersey City when there was nothing. There was not, you know downtown. So there was the big Dwayne Reed and the Starbucks. And we were rejoicing when that whole thing was built because we were here before that. And before the building that's right there now, the apartments and the Starbucks and the Dwayne Reed got there, it was an empty lot with weeds. And on that lot, there was a little wooden shack with a man inside where you could buy your newspaper and your train card. If he wasn't there, too bad.
Did he sell coffee for 99 cents in those little
I don't think he sold coffee at the time. He had like a little tiny hut. It was like a tiny little hut that if you blew on it, it might fall over.
Wow.
That's what was there.
Wow.
For sure. Yeah, there was nothing else. It was, and then when the bulldozers came to build that entire complex, everybody on our block was like, "That's amazing."
Well, you didn't need a bulldozer for that shack. You could have probably just pushed it over, right?
Exactly. No, they were digging and doing the weeds and all that. But yeah, no, I've been there for a long time.
Awesome. And you've been an insurance broker for several years now, right?
Yeah, I bought the Goosehead brokerage. It's a franchise model. It's a publicly traded nationwide brokerage, and it is one of the largest brokerages in the country with a lot of carriers. Mm-hmm. You can find us on the NASDAQ. It's GSHD. But I bought it in 2021 because I wanted to own a business. Nice. And I was like, I was thinking, what could I do by myself? Because I was partners in other businesses before that. And I decided on insurance. And it has been an adventure, to say the least.
I can imagine, especially with more and more 1 in 100-year storms, right?
1 in 100-year storms. Every year that we get older as people, I mean, I never go past 30, so
no, of course.
There's that,
yeah,
of course.
Right.
But every year that we get older, these buildings are older.
Sure.
And the infrastructure gets older. Our sewer lines. There's always these things in the Northeast. We have flat roofs, old houses, old sewers. Then there's areas where you're rated a little bit higher because of the urban score and all of these things. There's a lot of things that go into a rate. It's not the same as just thinking, oh, it should be, this is a single family, it should be $100 a month.
Right.
Those days are out the window because these carriers are smarter. They know that that's silly. You can't rate it like that.
You didn't mention old basements. I've seen a lot of old basements as a real estate agent.
Old basements, crawl spaces. I've got a couple of really good friends who are home inspectors who they have seen a thing or two.
Oh yeah. I've attended enough home inspections where I've seen a thing or two as well, and some things you see in these old properties, like wow.
You just leave the house. You just
leave the house.
You do your workout outside.
Why did I not bring my N95 mask today on this showing?
Or you just don't want to see it. You're I don't want to see this. Don't tell me.
So how much of your business would you say is Jersey City and the vicinity, let's say Hudson County?
There's actually a lot of business here in Hudson County. As you know, as one of the busiest brokers in town, you do know that there is, there's a big demand. Everybody wants to be in Hudson County. And it used to just be downtown Jersey City, and then it became, because I've been here for so long, the Heights, and now it's Greenville, and it's Bergen Lafayette, and then it's Bayonne, and then now it's Union City and West New York, and it's kind of like going out.
Totally, yeah.
The demand is just growing. So a lot of my business is trying to solve the problems that people have when they're trying to buy either a condo or a single family or a multifamily here in town, because the insurance companies, like we were just talking about, many of them have pulled out of town. They don't want to cover Hudson County. Some of them don't want to cover any of northern New Jersey. Forget Hudson County. So it's a little tricky for some of the clients that come here to try to, raise a family, whatever you're trying to do. Insurance is a big part of it because, not only is it required when you buy a house, but it's also really important to protect your investment. It's the biggest thing that you're buying. It's not just, it's the biggest asset of your life. So you want to make sure that you're safe from anything unexpected.
For sure. So it's actually a perfect segue. So you as a broker, what is the main advantage or some of the top advantages of being an insurance broker as opposed to someone who has an Allstate franchise or a State Farm franchise?
Right. Well, brokers are one step away from the carriers and one step closer to the client. So when the old model of doing insurance was you would go on Google, the trusted Google, the World Wide Web. I am old enough to say that. The interwebs. And you would look and
Do you
you'd
remember
be like,
dial-up modems?
yes,
I'm old
I
enough
have
to
one.
remember dial-up modems.
I am old enough to have an AOL account. Don't.
Me too. Yeah, you've got mail. I used to love that. Yeah.
No judging.
AOL chat, AIM. Remember AIM?
AIM
Yeah.
and the door, it would creak and shut.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yes, you're right. Yes. We're digressing. But I love it. I love it.
All right, so brokers. So the agents, when you are calling an agency or you're on Google looking for insurance companies to call, you're calling a company that only is representing their product, and their fiduciary is to represent their company and their shareholders. When you're using a broker or asking a broker to help you, we are working with all of the companies, and our fiduciary responsibility is to the client and the homeowner.
Interesting. So just to clarify, so somebody at Allstate,
Mm-hmm.
their fiduciary duty is to Allstate, like the brand,
Correct.
and not necessarily to the person they're servicing?
Correct.
Cool. Okay.
So, when you're working with Goosehead, not every brokerage is the same because they're all different models.
Yeah.
Ours happens to be very big, and we're service focused. So we have a lot of, we have many, many insurance agents that are on a service team. We have a service model. So when you're calling our service team, our 800 number, or chatting with them, or doing something, scheduling a call, so they call you, at whatever time you're available. Every agent that you speak to is licensed and can speak to you about whatever it is that's happening. So if you've got, you have a claim, you have to do some paperwork for a refinance.
Mhm.
They're all qualified to do this because you really can't do anything in insurance without a license.
Right.
So they're all licensed. And it's not just me then, it's my service team behind me that's helping you along the way. In the years that you own the house. You own the house for 10 years, you might refinance 8, whatever.
Yeah.
God forbid you have a claim, but you might have 1 or 2. You can call the service team and then they help you.
So if I'm a home buyer,
Mhm.
what is the advantage of me reaching out to you as opposed to someone at Allstate or, let's say, State Farm?
Well, the first thing is choice, right? Because, everybody is busy these days, and you probably have a very busy job and a busy life. And if you did it on your own, you would spend a lot of time, many, many hours, trying to call every company, waiting on hold, talking to the agent who is telling you about their product and answering all their questions, times 10, right? You have to call like 10 companies. And not only that, there's a lot of companies that you would never have access to because they're not direct to consumer. They are
Oh, okay.
broker only.
Interesting.
Yes. So there's many companies that you won't be able to call because they don't do business with consumers. They want a broker there, and they give their product to brokers.
Wow. They just don't want to deal with consumers and all the...
They just don't pay for marketing. It's like it's like a marketing thing, right? So
Got
if you're paying for dollars on the television,
Mhm.
the newspaper, all of those things, websites, then you are giving access to consumers. If you're not paying for any of that, then you are giving your access to brokers. So you're going to have a lot more choice with a broker. You're going to have somebody advocating for you if you ever needed it. Your interests as a homeowner. So there's those two things, and then every brokerage is different. So ours has a lot of service. So you are getting a little bit more for your experience.
Gotcha. So if I have an issue like a year later, I call Goosehead, right? If I have an event like
Correct.
at home. Okay, cool.
A burst pipe, a water coming through your drains in the basement happens a lot in Hudson County.
Yeah. Actually, let's talk about that. That's another perfect segue. So if I'm thinking of buying my first property, let's say in Jersey City right here, where we're talking, what are the things, and let's say I know nothing about real estate, right? I'm a rookie and I'm thinking of buying my first place. What should I know when I'm shopping for home insurance?
The first thing I'm going to say has nothing to do with me. Make sure you have a buyer's agent.
Well, thanks, Paula. Free plug. Not planted.
Not planted. But the reason why I'm saying that is because you and I both know that that's the big talk these days. Is the whole the changes to the NAR.
Yeah, that could be a whole separate conversation.
It's a whole separate conversation. It's not my conversation,
Yeah.
but have a buyer's agent who has a lot of advice for you and understands the area. So that's super duper important. The next thing you should do is you should have a really good insurance broker who knows every carrier and has an answer for you about the things, understands the homes. So like I understand Hudson County, or, just generally, it also applies to Essex County and Bergen too, right? So it's not just Hudson. But you want to just speak to somebody that understands the coverages that you need. If you are living in the ground floor, even if you're a condo, you might consider some flood insurance because this is Hudson County. And if your front door opens to the street level, you would want to consider some of those things.
Yep.
You also want to talk to somebody who understands, just the nuances of how to insure a building that's got the older roof, the flat roof. It's a condo. It's in a building that's next to another one, so it's very close. Not every carrier that you're going to try to call is going to take row houses. So there's that. There's a lot of things that you may not consider, but you fell in love with the house in your heart, so you don't really know what to think about.
Right.
So that I think that's really important. I think it's really important to just have professionals around you that can kind of guide you
Yeah.
and think about things because, when you are doing real estate or buying real estate, it's very emotional.
Totally.
So you are falling in love, kind of like in a relationship,
Right.
right? So you aren't necessarily seeing everything. Like in a relationship, you don't realize that the guy's gonna leave the socks on the floor every night. All of those things. Owning a home is
Can you
kind
insure
of the same.
against that? The socks on the
No,
floor?
I can't help you there. Sorry,
Oh,
you're gonna have to
man.
figure that out on your own. But you're not thinking about those things, and that's what your professionals are doing. Your insurance agent, your real estate agent, telling you, think about these things because it's in this neighborhood, and this neighborhood has, it's in a flood zone, or it's not in a flood zone, but it's very close to one. So consider these things in your insurance. That's what you should have on your side.
Gotcha. And I noticed, having owning a couple of rental properties and owning a primary residence, I noticed that in general, insurance premiums have been on the rise. And are there? Obviously we see a lot of headlines about inflation, but it must be more than just that, right? What do you think are some of the contributing factors to just overall rising premiums?
Yeah, that's been a conversation since I'd say right after COVID. There have been some massive losses in the insurance world. They've been in the news, so it's no news to you. It's no news to anybody watching this. California, Florida, Colorado are the 3 states that are in the news all the time for being uninsurable. The Hawaii wildfires contributed to that state's insurance issues. When you have many, many decades of collecting premiums that are too low for the losses that you're experienced, you're going to lose money, right? So it's loss ratios. So these companies are realizing that, you want to compete in this business or any industry, anything that you can think of. But right now we're talking about insurance, and you're only charging X dollars. However, to rebuild the house or fix whatever problem is going to happen to said house, if you don't collect enough money to fix that problem, you're going to lose money.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I say this all the time to all of my clients, insurance companies are basically banks. They're financial concerns. And so
Money in, money out, right?
exactly. So it has to, balance out. So if you're in a place like Hudson County where our losses they're extra high when things happen, because we're in real houses, we're in old homes.
Yeah.
So it's harder to build a real house because it's right next to another one. Materials are expensive.
Yeah.
If one house catches on fire, you might do something to the next one. I hope nobody ever has to fire, but these are the truths.
Yeah.
And
A
so
large portion of Hoboken is in a flood zone.
Exactly. The sewers are very old, and so a lot of them are made of cast iron, and it's particularly in Hudson County, and they are collapsing all the time. Not all the time, but often. And so these are the things that contribute to companies having major loss ratios. And so over the years, you'll see that their prices are going to go up. So the days of the $100 a month policies for homes in Hudson County are pretty much gone, right? The row houses that we're talking about downtown.
Yeah.
You have to account for that. It's not your mama's insurance.
Right,
That's for
right,
sure.
yeah. And obviously, it's an evolving business, and as losses mount, they have to compensate ultimately, right? The companies to survive.
It's a finance.
So when you're, as a broker, when you're shopping around for a client, I assume, given what you just said, especially here in Hudson County, you're not just shopping for the lowest rate, because that would be short-sighted, right? Are you shopping for the optimal policy at the most affordable price for that particular client and property? Is that the mindset?
Well, there's 2 answers to that. There's 2 answers.
We got time. Give me all the answers.
One answer to that, honestly, it comes down to the client, because you've got investors who are they're cash focused. They want cash flow to be flush, and they want to make sure that they don't spend as much money on anything because they want to buy the next property. That's the same client that's not going to call in their insurance all the time. So they like a higher deductible. They want to save money. And so as long as it's the right policy and it's acceptable to all, everything's been thought of, everything's, replacement cost, you put in the water backup, you put in money for the sewer line just in case that happens because they don't want to be paying for that. Those are expensive to replace. As long as you do all that, they'll take a higher deductible. So it's a cheaper or a less expensive policy because you're saving money on the deductible. If you're a first-time home buyer, and you have no experience in buying a home or owning a home, and you don't know what to expect, and you want to make sure that you're safe because your cash flow isn't nearly as fluid. You're, trying to pay your mortgage, trying to raise your family, pay for groceries, pay for school, all of these things, then you might take the more robust policy that's more expensive every month, but will keep you a little bit safer and your cash flow safer if something were to happen. So I think it really depends. We can work with anybody. I mean, if you have a DTI issue, if you're worried about, making sure that your cash flow is correct at time of closing because whatever is happening.
Can we clarify DTI for people that may not be familiar with the abbreviation?
So debt to income ratio, I'm not a loan officer, so I cannot really speak to how they figure these numbers out. But if you're looking at the numbers and you want to make sure that you are healthy on paper when you're buying the house and you're told that your insurance has to be like, let's say $150 a month.
Yeah.
And so you're going to give up a lower deductible to meet that. Like, let's say, for the $1,000 deductible, you're a little bit over, but for the $2,500 one, you can meet it. You just got to get to talk to me about it and let's talk it through and understand that if something were to happen, the first $2,500 is your responsibility. That's not a terrible deductible because, hopefully we'll be able to work through that. Or you could also look at things like, maybe I'll give up some of my personal property coverage because I don't really have that many things. I buy from IKEA. I don't buy from I don't buy from, Restoration Hardware. There's ways to work it through so that you can meet your budget is what I'm saying.
Yeah. And that's a big part of your job, right? Is to have the conversation with the client, understand their needs, understand their budget, priorities, and then craft the best insurance package for them, right?
Yeah.
For balancing, are you always trying to balance protection and cost essentially?
Pretty much. I mean, I don't think there's anybody out there that wants to overpay for anything.
Sure,
neither do I, and neither do you.
Yeah.
Go to the grocery store. I'm not going to pay extra.
Yeah. But I think with insurance, it's a unique product because like if I'm buying a TV and I buy a crappy generic TV, what's the worst that'll happen? It will break in 6 months and I have to go get another flat screen TV. But with insurance, if you don't get sufficient coverage, especially in a certain area or a certain type of property, and a bad event happens, that you could be screwed in a big way, right? So
that's true. I think we had to remember too, though, is that you're buying peace of mind, right? Yeah. You're buying whatever is going to make you happy and be able to sleep at night, because everybody's hope is that nothing ever happens. Let's hope that you buy insurance and nothing ever happens. You never need to use it.
Right.
I hope that is everybody.
Yeah.
I want everybody to have that experience. But you're buying peace of mind, and it's whatever is going to make you sleep at night in your new home so that you're comfortable. That's really it.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about 3 different types of buyers that we deal with a lot here on our team and as Compass agents overall. First-time condo buyers looking for a condo in Jersey City, whether it's in the Heights or downtown or Hoboken or the vicinity, right? Mostly Hudson County, although we cover other counties as well. So condo buyers, and we have first-time home buyers looking for a home in the suburbs, like a typical single-family home. Typically, in our market, 50 years old, 75, 100 years old, or sometimes even older. And the third category are first-time investors looking to buy a 2-family. And there's a lot of all 3 in Hudson County.
Yep.
So if these 3 types of buyers are reaching out to you, the conversations are going to be slightly different from your point of view, right? What are the key differences from, hey, I need an insurance policy if I'm reaching out to you about buying my first condo, buying my first single-family home in the suburbs, or buying my first multifamily where let's say I'll live in one unit, rent out the other? That's
a super duper, there's long and short answers to everything. The short answer of that is, whenever you're buying these 3 things, it's 3 different forms. The insurance industry is written on forms. The history of insurance is, goes back all the way back to the 1600s, I think. Great Fire of London, when the entire city burned down and there was no insurance. There was one bank, it was called Lloyd's. And after that happened, people had no money to rebuild their homes, and they began this insurance industry. They'd go to the bank, they'd have insurance. So that's how insurance started. So then from there, it's written on these quote unquote forms. A condo form is called an HO6, and it's really just for the interior of the house. You have a master policy that covers all the shared spaces. So your hallway, your front door, your roof, the exterior walls. If the entire building were to disappear.
And the basement of the building, right?
And the basement, because you don't live in it.
Right.
It's only for your unit. So let's say this room is my condo, it's my walls in. So my electrical, my fire what's that called? Smoke detector, fire alarm, smoke detector, all of those things that's inside your house, that's your condo is going to cover that. Your kitchen, your bathroom, hot water heater, whatever's in your house. So that's going to cover that. Everything else outside once you open your door, your master policy covers that. And your HOA fees are paying for that particular insurance. So you technically have 2 insurances.
Yeah.
That's your condo.
Can I pause you there for a second? So if I'm buying a condo unit in Hoboken and the building is in a flood zone, is the flood insurance on me or on the HOA?
It should be hopefully on the HOA. However, if you're in a ground floor condo, like we had just said, you probably would want to consider getting a small flood insurance policy for your own belongings, because your master policy will never cover the things that you personally own or anybody in the building. Nobody's personal belongings, just your shared stuff,
Got it.
like the table in the lobby.
And a regular policy won't cover that if it's a flood event, right?
Correct. If it's a flood event and it's going inside your unit, then it's not the master flood. The master flood is just for the shared.
So my personal belongings will be my loss if I don't have supplemental flood insurance coverage.
Correct. And
Okay.
your condo policy will not cover that either, because there's no flood insurance coverage on any home insurance product. They're completely separate programs.
Always separate.
Always
Got it.
separate. Anything to do with flood.
Thanks for clarifying. Sorry.
No worries.
interrupted
And
you.
honestly, and some people don't understand, like they say the word flood, we all throw out the word flood like super easily. Oh, it's going to flood. The word flood is water that touches two different properties. Outside is one property, inside is another property. So if it's coming from outside in, that's flood.
Got it.
Two separate properties.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So if there's inundation, like a crazy rainstorm,
Mm-hmm.
and the storm pipes, like the city storm drains, are overwhelmed and it backs up into my basement, that's not a flood event.
Not a flood. That's backup water.
That's
sewer water backup.
Sewer water backup.
And that's on a regular home policy if you buy it.
Which is usually a separate rider, right? It's an
It's an
optional
endorsement.
add-on.
Correct.
Is
Yeah.
that an add-on, especially with older properties in northern Jersey? Is that an add-on you would recommend to pretty much
I
anybody?
write it on every policy.
Yeah.
I would never advise anybody to buy any policy without that on there if you're in New Jersey.
How
or
much
honestly
roughly?
anywhere.
What would it cost? The sewer
Very
and water
inexpensive.
backup
You
per
can
year?
you can start with $5,000 of coverage, $10,000 it covers whatever damage with that event, and like $80 a year,
Okay.
maybe 100.
So for less than $100 a year,
Yeah.
you guys, if you're thinking about buying your first property, can protect yourselves against one of the most frequent occurrences, which is sewer and water backup.
Sewer water
right?
backup, correct.
Perfect. So if
And-
you don't remember anything else from this chat, remember that.
Yes, and I do read a lot of other policies that are coming straight from agencies
Mhm.
that don't have them on there, and they were sold to the person because whoever sold this policy to somebody in New Jersey didn't think of where they were and didn't offer it, and they were just trying to beat a budget. Oh, look, my policy's really cheap, but there's nothing on there. Like, it's just
So they were price shopping like for, I don't know, Black Friday sale or something, instead of like thinking, hey, what's best for me?
what's best for me, what's important, what should I put on here? If there's no sewer water backup, that's going to probably happen more often than a fire.
Yeah, sure.
And so you'd want to make sure. And water backup, 1 inch of water, according to FEMA, 1 inch of water in a home, inside a home, can cause up to $25,000 of damage.
Right.
Because if you think about it, if it's sitting on your floor
Yeah.
while you're away for the whole day or
Yeah.
even overnight, it's on your hardwood floor, it's in your drywall,
Yeah.
and you have to rip it all out because
Mold
of mold.
might be growing. Yeah.
Because
Makes
of mold.
sense.
Mold is it's all around us right now, and it'll catch on right
Yeah,
away.
makes sense. All right, so we went on a tangent because I distracted you from the initial question, which was condo versus single family versus multifamily. So I think we covered condo.
Condo's interior, yeah.
Yep, I'm now buying a single family in
Mm-hmm.
the suburbs. What do I need to worry about or think about?
Single family is, usually the single family who's going to be a primary is the buyer who needs to be safe. You need to just make sure that you can sleep at night. So you want to make sure that you got your full coverage on the house. You're not going to depreciate the roof. There's a lot of agencies out there and carriers that I will not name that will sell you a policy, and on the policy it excludes the roof or covers it at actual cash value. And actual cash value is a term that means depreciation at time of loss. So you want to think about that. You just want to make sure that everything's at replacement cost. There are carriers that will not cover the roof over a certain age. So when you're going into buying a house, you want to ask one of the most important questions to ask the seller or the selling side is, how old is the roof? What is it made of? And make sure the inspector tells you what is going on up there, because the insurance companies care a lot about the roof.
Yeah, the problem is sometimes you don't know the exact age, right?
Generally.
The owner may not have any clue, and the inspector might say, it's an older roof, but it has another 10 years left to it, or something like that, right? They give you a rough estimate.
They don't want to be sued.
Right, exactly.
That's true.
So it's kind of sometimes hard. Is it true that certain insurance companies now are sending drones to take aerial pictures?
Everything is very high tech now. So they are using satellite.
Yeah.
They are using drones. They will always, the days of not inspecting a house are long gone. These days, when you buy a house and you get insurance, within the first 60 days of buying that house, expect the insurance company to drive by and look at the house.
Yeah.
In certain circumstances, with certain carriers, they'll ask to come in.
So a prospective buyer should be honest and as accurate as possible when describing the home, because frankly, they run the risk of potentially having either maybe their policy even dropped, right? Theoretically, if they, let's say,
Happens all
if
the
they
time.
lie when filling out the form and they get a policy for X, and then it turns out the roof is shot and it's like about to,
Yeah.
fall down,
sure.
the insurance company might say, we're actually dropping you your
Oh yeah, they give you 30 to 60 days and you're off the program.
to fix the problem.
Either show us a receipt that you replaced the roof and pictures,
Uh-huh.
or we're dropping you.
Got it.
And then they have to go to the next best carrier, which is probably more expensive, which is why they had the first one in the first place.
Understood. Okay.
So, and that's going to happen on the multifamilies
Yeah.
as well, which is what you wanted to talk about next. Multifamilies are, it's a different form as well. So you've got the HO6, technically speaking, for the condo, HO3s for the houses, or 5s. There's 2 forms for houses. And then for the investment properties are called dwellings because the coverages are a little bit different. But the dwelling policies are the most important thing as a landlord is to make sure you have high liability for all of these situations, right? Because when you own an asset, you want to make sure you have high liability.
Personal liability.
Personal liability, which is on the policy.
And that's if my tenant slips and falls and sues me, the landlord, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Or, if somebody shows up on the property to deliver something and then you didn't shovel the walk, and it's the landlord's problem, so he might get sued for that.
Got it.
So there's those kinds of things. But as far as dwellings, you want to make sure, you probably don't care too much about the belongings in the house because they're not yours.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to make sure the building is covered, but the personal property, probably you just have some appliances in there.
Yeah.
So you want to lower that. Like I had said earlier, most landlords have a higher tolerance for a higher deductible.
Sure.
So there's that. But you still want all the same things. You want to make sure that you have coverage for water backup.
Yeah.
Because that's very expensive. Sewer lines, those kinds of things. Yeah.
And what is, because I own a couple of landlord policies, and there's a line for, I think it's called like renters.
Loss of use.
Loss of use, right. So it's essentially if something happens to a rental unit and I can't collect rental income during a certain period, the insurance company will pay me essentially, right? In lieu of the...
Correct. And also help you relocate your tenants for a little while if you need to do
Okay.
that. In fact, all of the policies will have that. So the condo unit needs it because if the condo caught on fire or something happens and you have to go to a hotel for a couple nights, you've got that loss of use on that policy, on the homeowner's policy as well if you can't stay in your house, and on the landlord policy as well because you might need to replace your tenants and also you can't collect rent. So there's 3 different ones. And remember, the insurance doesn't cover it if you're just rehabbing an apartment because you know that it's old and you can't rent it. That's not going to cover that. It's for an actual peril, like something caught on fire or something like that.
Got it.
Yeah.
So I mean, we've covered a lot of ground, and I'm pretty familiar with what we're talking about just because of being an agent and being a property owner and investor. But I think to a lot of our listeners, this emphasizes how important it is to have a team of professionals, right? You plugged us as agents. Thank you for that.
I didn't plug you. I'm just pointing out it's a fact.
I appreciate that, but I think it's also important to have an insurance professional on your team, right? You want a lender, a good lawyer, agent, and insurance professional because
Title,
yeah. But if there's a severe event or an unexpected event, that's the whole point of having home insurance. Whether you're a landlord, first-time condo buyer, or buying a home in the suburbs. So I think hopefully listeners will deduce a lot of value from our conversation. But I want to before we wrap up, I want to take a step back from insurance because you have a diverse background. You had a lot of careers and jobs before this. We're not going to get into all your previous careers, but now that you're in the insurance industry and you have a family, what do you enjoy doing most when you're not helping your clients and when you're not in your business?
I mean, I definitely, I do have a family. I have kids, and that is basically, as you know, as a dad, it's all encompassing. I have a child, well, he's a man now. He's almost 20. He's in Boston University. And then I've got a freshman in high school that's going into next year. He'll be obviously a sophomore. We're almost at the end of the year here. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of, keeping up with my kids and all those kinds of things. I've got 2 dogs.
Oh, wow.
I have a COVID dog, a pandemic dog, because I don't know if you noticed this, but all of Jersey City adopted dogs during 2020, 2021. And I was one of them too. We were one of them. So we have Daisy and we have a foster dog. So we've got a couple dogs. There's a lot of socializing that I do as a business owner, as you probably do as well. So there's a lot of that, keeping up with the restaurants and all those kinds of things. And everybody in Jersey City goes to one of the many gyms. And my favorite one that I've been going to for years is Base, which is downtown. I was going to Base when it was Club H. That's how long I've been there.
Are you a
I don't
morning workout person or evening or
I
midday?
try to go in the morning because I feel like if you get up, the one rule I will say is that if you need help staying with your fitness journey, the thing to do is in the morning when you get up, put your shoes on, your sneakers, because then you really can't go. Your sneakers are on your feet, so then you gotta
That's
go.
it.
That's it. Just put your sneakers on.
Just put your sneakers on.
Do not stay in your pajamas and go
Yeah.
to work and any of that things or any of those.
Wait, can I wear my pajamas and put my sneakers on?
No, you have to put your workout clothes on,
Oh,
put your
got it.
sneakers on, and then the intention is there, right? Because that's the thing,
So do you
right?
just have them lying like ready to
No,
go
you
in the morning?
just
put
get
them on?
ready. Just
Put
it's
them on.
part of your thing. You get up, you make your bed, you put your gym clothes
Got it.
on, and you go because it's like part of you bake it into your routine. Just I'm
Yeah.
sure you do, right? We all have routines, and if there's trouble getting yourself moving in the morning to work out, just put the clothes on, the workout clothes on, and you're gonna go. Trust me.
Do you ever talk business at base at the gym?
I have been going to base for so long. Shout out to my base fam. I've been going there for so long that I know pretty much the entire staff. My son worked there for a little while before he went to college. And so every once in a while I'll run into a lot of realtors because there's a lot of realtors in town that go to base as well. So I don't know. I feel like it's just part of life. You just have a lot of conversations.
Yeah.
I'm not the kind of person that runs around trying to think of ways to make more business connections. It's just, I like to, make friends and talk to people about whatever it is that they want to talk about. So if it's called networking to other people, I don't see it as that because I love base. I basically, It's my second home. I'm so comfortable there and I'm talking to many people about many things. So yes, you do end up talking a little bit about insurance because people know what you do and they ask you questions. So there is that, but I don't think it's unintentional. It's just, I like it there and I have
Good.
fun conversations.
Keep doing it.
Yeah.
Especially if it makes you happy. And,
Yeah.
I think your industry is also could be stressful at times, right? It's just like
Oh gosh.
being in real
Days.
estate.
When you have the
So-
phone calls and somebody's having, a desperate situation with their basement or water pouring. Somebody called me the other day saying that the seller had detached their water softener
Yeah.
and capped it, but they didn't cap it right. And they were just sitting there watching TV one night and suddenly they heard a gush. They looked over and there was water pouring into the living room.
Oh no.
I know, there's that. There was one Christmas a couple years ago where a gentleman called me. He had just moved in the beginning of December. And 25 days after he closed, which was on Christmas morning, he was cooking for his family and the pipe burst above his head. And the house had just been developed.
Wow.
It was bought
New
and somebody.
construction.
It wasn't new construction. It was flipped.
Flip. Got it. So flip. Yeah, I got it.
We have our opinions about those.
Yeah.
But and what to look for. But so these are the things that can happen that they call you because no one's answering the phone. Everybody's closed on Christmas morning. What are you going to do,
Wow.
right? And so he called me. I was cooking my breakfast too, and he called me, and I was just like, "Oh my
And you
God, I'm
answered.
so sorry." Of course,
Well,
you have to be accessible.
reflection
because,
of who you are, but also I think just being you're essentially a small business owner, right?
yes,
And as we all are as real estate agents, and I think we're only in this business for as long as we take care of our clients, right?
That is true.
You picking up that call on Christmas morning is a reflection of who you are and what you're trying to do as a small business owner.
I mean, to be honest with you about that particular situation, I am not a plumber, and I cannot make the carrier open the door. So it is going to have to wait until they're open again on the business day. But just to hear somebody
Yeah.
on the other line talking you through a problem, no matter what it is, whether or not I was involved or not, is so helpful for anybody. It doesn't matter what the situation is. Sometimes it's just to have somebody tell you, okay, so let's think about this. It's Christmas.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah,
wait
yeah.
until Monday. We have a plan. This is what you're going to do.
Right.
Just talking them through that makes them comfortable sometimes. And if that's what somebody needs, then let's do it.
That's awesome. That's a great
Yeah.
attitude. And I think hopefully people will resonate with all the advice you've shared. So in closing, what is the best way for people to reach out to you if they have, maybe they're first-time buyers or they're investors or maybe they have a relative who's nervous about buying or selling? What's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
So the best way to get in touch with me is honestly just to call me or connect with me on Instagram. Everybody's on Instagram these days. And so
For now. In 5 years, it might be
What's
something
next?
else. I don't
even
know.
know what's we were all in the chat rooms and now we're on Instagram.
Yeah.
But you can find me on Instagram. It's Goosehead Paula. So I'm on there. You can look up gooseheadinsurance.com. I'm also on there. Google me. I have a little Google, all my reviews are on there.
Okay. And we'll
Got
put your
that.
contact information in
Just
the
call
video
me.
notes
See me
as
at
well.
the gym,
Yeah.
wave. Hello.
Say hi to you at base.
I'll talk to you
6
about
o'clock in
whatever.
the morning or what?
Sure. No, like 7:30.
7:30. All right,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
reasonable.
Let's
You're
not
reasonable.
get crazy here, guys, okay? Can't be doing that because I work pretty late into the night because sometimes
okay, yeah.
people do need to talk about their personal business
Yeah.
after their own business hours.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So I do a little bit of work on the weekends. I try to make myself available when they are available because you cannot, your manager might
Sure.
not want you talking about home insurance
For sure.
at,
Yeah,
2
at
o'clock
work,
in the
yeah.
afternoon at work on Monday through Friday. So I try to make myself
I totally get
flexible,
it. Nights
yeah.
and weekends, I totally
You
get it.
too, right?
Totally
Who can
get
see
it.
a house in the middle of the day? You
Yeah,
have to take them when they
exactly, yeah.
can see it.
Well, I appreciate it. This has been so much fun, and
Super fun.
I'm glad we got to talk.
Thank
Thanks
you
so
for
much.
inviting me. Thank
you, Paula.
you.
Pleasure.